Well, welcome everybody, and thank you for coming to our session. My name is Mike Finley. I'm the CTO and co-founder of AnswerRocket. We are a GenAI consultancy that helps businesses accelerate their insights, accelerate their analytics. And I'm joined on stage today with our partner, Subhu from Kantar. And the partnership between our companies is about the technology platform from AnswerRocket and the expertise in helping brands that comes from Kantar.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. So I'm Subhu, I'm from Kantar, and I'm the North America commercialization head for all our AI initiatives. And at Kantar, sort of, we've been at the forefront of working with brands to sort of help grow their the brand value that they have right through their whole marketing life cycle, whether they're innovating new products, whether they are crafting new communication, whether they're taking that out to media and understanding the effectiveness of their media outputs. And we have a rich history of embedding AI and ML solutions through their entire journey, so that when our clients work with solutions, they get the best of the technology platform that is available, alongside the data, the robust data, as well as the frameworks that we deploy to analyze the data in a market validated way. So it is still true, though, despite all of that brands do struggle with insights. Brands struggle with insights because there is increasing plethora of data that we have available to us. And it's not only about the individual data sets that we have, which are large and growing, but also the need really to connect between these data sets so that you can tell one compelling story, so that you're using the whole library of information that you have together rather than using them in silos. And one of the biggest challenges to actually bring that to life is still the limited amount of resources and the traditional processes that this whole journey of getting from insights to action has followed. So there is a need to get past that and help generate greater insights in time for action. But even more than generating insights, it's really about taking those insights and providing it to the brand manager, to the marketer, to the sales rep in time to make actual strategies that can drive the brand forward. And the whole process of getting to that insight sometimes takes so long that traditionally it's been difficult, therefore, to get stakeholder buy-in, because the insight that you're trying to provide back to the business is too complex, or is taking too much time, or is too data-rich to be able to really craft clear actions. So the brands are still struggling in that process. And then there is a way, the GenAI, we feel alongside AnswerRocket, that we can help in this process.
Yikes,
which I assure you is not a blank screen.
There we go. Yeah, exactly. All right. So with all those problems and with all the problems that you guys face, how is it that a GenAI assistant can help, right? How is it that we achieve faster insights? How do we get analytics that are more interesting, that are more valuable, quicker? We're going to actually work through a scenario, and there's going to be a product demonstration in a second just to show you the art of the possible. But we're basically going to sort of demonstrate what it is that can be done when you combine the data with the knowledge and the framework and the tools. And then we're going to talk about how it is that you can bring that into your environment.
Yeah. So to do that, I'm going to ask you all to sort of step out of your current role and think for a moment that you've been given the superpower to be the brand manager of your favorite QSR chain. In this case, we will assume that this is Chick-fil-A, and your day-to-day job is figuring out how can I grow my brand. That is the challenge that you're dealing with day-to-day. And you're looking at all of those data assets, you're trying to make sense of that, trying to tell a story that will help grow your brand. Now, to do that, in this case, what the data that we're using is the Kantar Brand Dynamics data set, which is continuously collected day-on-day information on how consumers of the QSR category view all the brands that they have at their disposal. Chick-fil-A, Domino's, McDonald's, Burger King, and so on. And we look at all of this data through a framework that we call the Meaningfully Different Salient Framework. And just a couple of words on that so that the data later on makes sense, or the process that we talk about. Meaningfulness is what does that brand mean to you as a consumer, both in terms of its emotional connection. Do you understand the brand? Do you have an emotional connection with the brand? And does it solve an actual problem that you have? Your problem may be, I am really hungry and I wish you would stop talking so that I can have lunch, right? So that may be the kind of problem that you're trying to solve. Is it different? Does Chick-fil-A, Burger King solve the problem that you have in a way that is different from another brand? And does that sync with you better than all your alternative competitors? And then when you have that need, when you have the craving to go and grab a burger or so on, does the brand come most salient in your mind? Does it top to your mind and speak to you the first thing, right? So think of it in that framework, and then we'll look through how GenAI Assistant is going to help this brand manager work through that.
So on this screen, you're seeing the AnswerRocket Max platform, but it's been configured by Kantar to now have a direct attachment to the data. It's all about how consumers react to different questions about different quick service brands. And it's loaded with a set of skills. These are the blocks that you see here that are basically analytics modules. Think of these as analytics apps that are built within the AnswerRocket framework. Now, these aren't apps for the end user. These are apps for the language model. When you hear about agentic AIs and tool use and these fancy terms, what these things really mean is that we're giving the language model the ability to go do research. So Kantar has taken their framework of how to operate, how to respond and manage your brand using consumer surveys. And with those, they've created a series of skills. And these skills become tools that a language model can use to interact with an end user. So where normally a user would have to figure out which dashboard to go to and then go to that dashboard and then set all the dials and widgets and so forth, instead they can just come in here and have a chat experience. So I'll start this playing. It doesn't go very long, but you can see the full demonstration if you come to our booth. We'll tell you a lot more about it. But let me start it going here. So basically, right away, you can see that down at the bottom, I've asked the question, my brand is CFA, what are my advantages? Just a nice open question. I'm not saying, show me the sales trend by quarter. I'm just saying, hey, what I want to know is what are my advantages? And you can see that it's in this framework where if I don't know exactly what to ask for, I can ask about any of these things that are on the screen. But in this case, I'm just going to start with this very open question. And all I do is pose that to the language model. And just like any other language model experience that you would have if you go to ChatGPT, it's going to take that in and it's going to think about it. But now, instead of saying, well, I was trained on the internet, so let me give you a veneer of an answer, right? That was one of the quotes from today's keynote speeches. Instead, I'm going to do a competitive performance review. Why? Because I have the Kantar framework loaded, and that review is going to come back with, sure, some normal GPT-style text or Anthropic or Gemini-style text, but it also comes back with a report. And that report is backed by real SQL, and that SQL was curated by a human who said this is a good way to do things. So you get all the benefits of the semantics of interacting with a language model, but you also have the rigidity, the formality of a business intelligence tool. So here you can see it's answering me. I said, what are my advantages? It showed me where I'm doing well. It shows me a few others that are doing better or worse than me. And I can follow on in this conversation with another question like, okay, well, who has the fastest growing demand power in this framework? So I like that demand power is an advantage for me, but who's growing theirs the fastest? I don't have to ask in any special way. The model is going to basically consider that question again, and you'll see what it does in this case is it doesn't choose another report because that information is already in the context. It was already as part of the previous answer. I didn't have to go read every detail of that prior answer. I could just say, tell me who's growing the fastest. And now I can follow that up with a question like, well, who's driving that? Or what are the factors driving that growth in brand power?
Yeah, and then once you want to, and while you're having this conversation with the brand, imagine you could be having this conversation with an analyst within your team, right? And they would be probably going through the same structured process to give you that answer. But now you're doing that in real time with the real data. So now that you've asked the question saying, what's driving Domino's growth? Now what this agent is able to therefore go do is really dig into that data beyond that veneer of, a large language model and look at that data, go to the right data set, identify the right data to look at, put a structure around it, which is a validated, market-validated, proven structure, and then answer the question that you asked, saying, why is Domino's doing well? And it's able to identify clearly with the charts and with the commentary below that Domino's demand power growth is driven by significant improvements both in salience and in difference. So those are the kind of things as a Chick-fil-A brand manager you need to be aware of, and you need to be thinking about what strategies and actions you can take. So it's taken the whole process of getting from, made the whole process of getting that insight and getting that to that specific recommendation so much more quicker than you would have in the past. And it doesn't require any training. You can have a conversation with the data rather than figuring out what dashboard should I run, what is the latest data set, what weight should I apply, all of those kinds of things. And it can go on doing that.
Absolutely. So after, you may have seen it going by, but after it answered the question about what's driving Domino's growth, the user then said something like, well, how can I be more like them? Right? And again, a very open question. And in this case, the model came back and first it ran a tool, right? Remember, in the agentic model, it's got to choose a series of steps to follow, right? So it decided to run a tool. And then it answered the question near the bottom. It says, hey, what you need to do is improve your difference score, which has had a big decline and maintained strong salience. And the interesting thing is this conversation could go on. We shortened it, obviously, but you could then say, what are the things that are driving that difference? How can I achieve that? And the conversation could go on for you, or you could start a new conversation and go down a totally different
So you
line.
could get to an identification of the kind of drivers, and you could quickly then say, okay, I need to speak to my agency tomorrow morning, and I could have a discussion about these are the kinds of imagery drivers, these are the kinds of positioning statements that I need to drive to be able to get that, get a one-up on Domino's in this case. So that's how it's solving some of those problems that we highlighted at the beginning of getting to action much more quickly as a brand builder.
And I don't know if you saw in the keynote this morning, one of them was all about grounding and guardrails and genuineness, I think were the three G's that were on that screen. And that's exactly what's happening here, right? Every bit of this conversation is grounded in data. It is guardrailed by the framework that says how to use that data. And the results that come out are these genuine answers that are usable by the end users. Now, you may be saying to yourself, though, that, but I'm not sure that's going to work on my data. You don't know how many times I've heard that. It couldn't possibly work for me. It looks like that's a really special data set. It is a special data set because Kantar has a lot of know-how, but it works on a lot of different data. And the reason that it can work for you and the environment that you have is because these bugaboos that are out there, things like hallucinations and bad SQL, and obviously the insights that are obvious, the Captain Obvious type insights. These things are all a consequence of not giving the model enough support, right? If you ask a language model an open-ended question, like, what should I do with my life? Well, it's going to fill in that story because that's what it was trained to do. Language models were trained on the internet. They are an average of everything that's out there on the internet. They know nothing about your business. They know everything about everybody's business, right? On a very average way. So hallucinations happen when you underspecify the question. Because we have a framework and data, we can take the user's question, contextualize it within the bounds of what is possible to answer, and let the model simply say, I don't know if it doesn't know, or provide facts when it does. And those facts come with references and citations and SQL statements that your IT departments are going to love, right? So that's hallucinations. Then this idea of the bad SQL, well, we heard in that very dark message from Jeff Hinton this morning, we heard about some of the scarier stuff when you sort of give the machine control. Well, yeah, if you give a language model control of your database, things can go sideways. I'm not going to say badly, but they'll definitely go sideways because a human analyst is not in the loop curating that. Within the Max framework, we stop that because we let humans curate the SQL before it's going to go to the model. Not on every question. Humans are curating templates. And then as individual users ask a question about a market or a time frame or a specific effect that they're looking for, we allow that SQL to be essentially templated so that the SQL that runs, we know to be valid, not that it's generated on the fly, right? Not that something that's been generated on the fly that's unknown, but something that's valid to be used. This idea of the no-da insights, right? This comes from using that sort of average internet kind of behavior. And, it's going to say some really obvious things. Like I saw the world's largest BI tool say that the number one cause of COVID was the date. Well, because COVID got worse with the date, right? So the date must be the cause. These are not meaningful things in any business context. It's laughable. But when you bring in a framework of knowledge that's combined with the data, those insights, as you saw in the slides or in the demo earlier, they're eye-popping. They're very actionable. They're very meaningful. And they can turn your entry-level personnel into experts in these areas. And of course, all of this solves the last problem, that user distrust, the genuineness that comes out of handling all these other problems means that the users can trust it, and you don't have this final point of friction. And
we can get to really real keys to GenAI success very quickly.
Yeah, so I'll talk about a couple of these, and Subha will talk about a couple of them. So the first one is recognizing that LLMs have limits. I mean, as much as I like to say the teenagers think they solve everything because you just dump your homework in and you get the answer out. It's not going to solve everything in your business, and you have to recognize that, right? A model can solve a problem when it is fully specified. When it's not going to run off the rails and do something that you don't want it to, when you have full control over what it's capable of, when you ground the user's question so that everybody understands that the human and the model agree on what's being asked, right? So this idea of recognizing the limits of the language model, using it generatively when it is being supervised, right? When a human is looking at it, it can generate code that we can verify. It can generate SQL that we can verify. When a business user is using it, you can't generate SQL and just run it to see what happens. It's like a random number generator, right? It's like the one-armed bandit, if you were in that last talk before us. It's going to generate random results. In the sense that your business can't use them. That's the randomness there. But if you know when to use the language model and you harness it, it's a bit like having an engine that you've never been able to have before to make your business move faster, to make your insights stronger.
Yeah, and as an organization, as marketers, as brand builders, you've created a certain set of frameworks and ways of looking at the data that is unique to you, that is unique to your organization. Just because you use a LLM doesn't mean you have to throw all of that away. What you want to do is harness that information that you have within your organization, along with any other frameworks that you use to look at your data, which could be MDS, which could be something else, and really be able to codify that within the application so that it talks like and behaves like how an analyst within your company would behave. So you have the reassurance that I'm using something trusted and validated that is specific to my organization and has worked well in the past.
That's right. And when those things are working well, that's one thing. But then you also have to be assured that they're not going to go off the rails by themselves, right? That you do have guardrails that are in place so that the model knows when it can't talk about data because it doesn't exist for that region or for that time frame. It knows when it can't talk about data because it doesn't have that currency or it doesn't have the specifics of what's being requested. When the subject of the question itself is not something that the model knows to talk about. So the scenario that we're showing you, this overall idea of the data and the framework integrated, providing GenAI results in business to get insights, this is live. This has been live for almost a year with AB InBev, and a few hundred users are accessing it. It's also live with Serial Partners Worldwide, which is a joint venture of Nestle and General Mills. They're using it live today. In the fashion that we're talking about it, because it has these guardrails and it is safe for those end users to access.
And these things, these successes exist and they're alive because ultimately the human is at the center of all of that. This is an GenAI assistant. It is something which works with you as a brand builder, as a marketer within the organization, so that you can create the brand you need to. You are still the expert. You know what good looks like. You know what you want to achieve. And this is there as a tool to help you get there. And this was just one example, right? I talked right in the beginning of the fact that we have many data sets available. We have many things that we want to bring together. So you could use it to understand brands. You could at the same time point it towards your segmentation data, the way that you look at your entire customer base and break that up and figure out which I want to target. Is it the youth? Is it a certain geographical area? Is it a combination? Is it an attitudinal segment I want to go after? And you could look at it, you could have the model talk to you like it was a representation of that segment, like a persona. You could look at your customer satisfaction data and see whether that ties in and how does that help build my brand. And you could look at all the data, all the structured and unstructured data that you have within your organization or any of the knowledge assets you subscribe to from other organizations and see how you can bring all of that together. And you could point them individually at these data assets, or you could ask the GenAI assistant to look across all of these and give you collated learnings across all of them.
Echoing a little bit more of what we saw this morning, this is only the beginning, right? GenAI specifically, is going to get, not hyperbolically, 100 times better over the next, call it year and a half. 100 times in the sense of twice as fast, half as expensive, 4 times more reliable, 8 times smarter, right? These things multiply out and give us that 100x, so don't get left behind. The technology is here now and it's working, and it's only going to get better as those models improve and as these platforms like the ones that we're showing you today take advantage of those new capabilities.
Yeah, and I know to say this at a GenAI conversation, but this is all about the human at the end of the day. It's about using the human and the AI collaboration so that the human stays doing what they do best. It's being creative. It's about building brands. It's about taking insights to action, and so that and delegate more of the processes and the work that needs to be done to get to that fun stuff that AI can do, and the humans can be there to build brands.
All right. So with that, thank you for your time. Come see us, booth 621.
Thank you.